Hi students, we will be starting with a topic called chemistry in everyday life today. This topic usually in national level exams like JEE and NEET is asked for one question. NEET usually there are two questions asked on this part. Now about chemistry with the title chemistry in everyday life, we know very well that synthetic organic chemistry has led to a lot of advancement in science which has obviously affected our daily life. So its influence basically is on food, shelter, clothing, our everyday luxuries and all. So we are going to talk over here about three aspects of chemistry related to everyday life. Number one, medicinal chemistry. Number two, in soaps and detergents, that is cleansing materials. And number three, food science or food chemistry. So right now we will be starting with the first section right now, that is drugs and medicines. Now with this word drugs, we usually have a different notion in our mind when we say drugs anywhere. But this word drug has come from a French word drogue, which means herb. And as you know, in earlier days, medicines were all from natural products, mainly plant products. Now, the current meaning of drug or medicine is chemical which interacts with biomolecules in our body like carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids, and after interaction, they create a biological response. That chemical is known as a drug. Moreover, for another word, medicine, which is a little better word and a little better meaning, is that medicine is that drug which is used for the purpose of diagnosis, prevention, cure, or relief from a disease. Now, let us come to a little detail of these four words. Diagnosis. If you want to find out whether a person has a particular disease, usually blood test or urine test is done. But there are some diseases like tuberculosis, TB, wherein certain chemicals are injected in your skin, response is checked, and then decided whether a person has TB or not. So this is called diagnosis. Prevention. This is currently a most hot topic. Prevention, we talk about vaccines. So we don't wait for a disease to happen. Before that, we can take a vaccine. Cure and relief, they are two different things. By cure, we mean that we are curing the disease completely. By relief, we mean we only remove the symptoms. For example, you have headache. Now, headache is just a symptom. You take, suppose, crocin, paracetamol, headache is gone. So you are relieved from headache. But what was the root cause of headache? Some disease that is not eradicated by paracetamol. So relief is from symptom, cure is from a disease. So remember four terms which are given over here. Whenever we take a medicine, it has certain characteristics which we call as characteristics of ideal drug. Number one, it should not disturb other physiological processes. It should be harmless to the host, means our body, but it should only destroy harmful organisms like bacteria and virus. It will be localized only at the affected site where the disease is present, and it must have minimum side effects. It is obvious that hardly any drug will qualify in all these four things. But whatever drugs, medicines we get in market must be reaching at least towards the best of these characteristics. We now go for the different types or classification of drugs. There are different ways in which we can classify. First is on the basis of pharmacological effects. So, the drugs which affect our normal simple processes like digestion, blood circulation, breathing, etc., they come under this category. For example, analgesics have pain relieving effect, antipyretic, the medicines which decrease our body temperature in fever, antiseptics which kill or arrest the growth of microorganisms, antidepressants, which help in changing the mood swings. These all are nothing but pharmacological effective drugs. Second type is based on a particular biochemical process. These drugs are particularly proper disease oriented. For example, painkillers, anti arthritis medicine, local anesthetic agents, they have different biological modes of action. Let us come to the third type after this. That is number three, based on chemical structure. These are on the basis of whatever important functional groups present in the structure. Like they can be containing alcohol functional group, ketones, esters, etc. This is more relative to our organic chemistry. Whenever they have similar chemical structure, they will create similar chemical properties. This is the major function which is used in the preparation of antibiotics. Last, on the basis of molecular targets. These drugs interact with biomolecules which are called target oriented drugs. Now, in our body, biomolecules like carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, these are target molecules. A lot of vaccines, antibiotics, the medicines which are used in the treatment of HIV, tuberculosis, they are all based on this principle of molecular target action. After this classification of drugs, we come to different classes of drugs. Now, here I am making a kind of a quick summary of every drug, and this is a simple meaning you have to remember by heart. Analgesics, which means painkillers, antipyretics, which lower the body temperature, tranquilizers is a technical word for sleeping pills, antimicrobials are those which cure diseases caused by microorganisms, antibiotics, special class under microbials, antiseptics, those antimicrobial which can be applied on living tissues, disinfectants which can be applied on surfaces like metal, tiles, other wooden surface and so on, antacids used in the treatment of hyperacidity, antihistamines used in treatment of allergy and even nowadays used for treatment of as antacids also, anti-fertility used in the birth control. Now we will be studying all these type of medicines in the forthcoming part. Remember, whatever terms I explained, they are merely in layman language. These are not technical definitions. Real definitions we will be learning in the next slides, and then you have to remember them for exams. So for a quick review, I have made this slide. Let us now start learning one by one each type of medicines here. And the first one is analgesics. Analgesics are those which relieve pain by acting on central nervous system without, important word, without loss of consciousness or without much disturbing the nervous system, that is central nervous system. As we know earlier, the simple meaning of analgesics is painkillers. There are two types. Number one, narcotic analgesics. They will have a strong depression of central nervous system. They will relieve the pain instantly. They are used usually by doctors in hospitals and to reduce the severe pain due to fracture of bones, post operative pain, severe pain due to burning, cancer patients, and such things. Remember, from the word itself, narcotic, we understand that they are what we call as drugs in our daily language. These intake up to optimum level, minimum level, can create senselessness, seizures, death also in higher level. Most of these drugs originate from opium. So that's why they were called opiates. These are mostly alkaloid, that means obtained from plant products. They are absolutely addictive in nature and you will not get these analgesics anywhere over the counter. Like if you go to a chemist shop and ask for these drugs, obviously you will not get these drugs. Let us continue with more types. After narcotics, we go for more information on examples of narcotics. Which chemicals come under narcotics? And I'm sure you must have heard these names. This structure is of a very famous compound, morphine. You need to remember molecular formula for your competitive exams along with structural features. Now, this morphine is a parent narcotic analgesic. It is still used by doctors, and in injection form it is used when there is a severe pain. Scientists modified these structures. This OH functional group, the phenolic OH functional group, was converted into OCH3. So we got a new structure. Can you see? OH became OCH3, and this was called codeine. Similarly, the other side OH group, both the OH groups are converted into OCOCH3. We get another one which is known as heroin. Morphine, codeine, and heroin, they are narcotic analgesics, very strong in nature and absolutely addictive in nature. From exam point of view, you need to know names, molecular formula, and functional groups present in them. You can also observe all the three structures are basically same, only they are differing with the OH or the other functional groups. After these narcotic analgesics, we go to the second type, non-narcotic analgesics. These do not produce any significant depression. They will relieve the pain slowly, but they are not habit forming. Some of them can even work as antipyretic as well as anti-inflammatory. Anti-inflammatory means they will decrease inflammation of muscles. Few examples which I think most of you must have heard are aspirin, paracetamol, naproxen, ibuprofen, diclofenac sodium or diclofenac potassium. We will study structures of this also on the next slide. Some of them even act as antipyretic, like aspirin functions in both the manner. Phenacetin, Novalgin, and quinine, they specialize in antipyretic action only. Let us study the structures of these compounds. Non-narcotic, the first one is aspirin. Aspirin is was earlier obtained actually from natural products. Now, of course, it is synthetic. This stops the synthesis of prostaglandin chemical in our tissues, which stimulates inflammation of tissues and cause pain. So, prostaglandin is a chemical secreted which will start giving you the sensation of inflammation and pain. Aspirin goes and stops the secretion of this chemical, because of which, fever can be reduced, overall pain can be reduced. This works even as anti-rheumatic drug. It has another very great effect of anti-blood clotting action, and it prevents blood platelet coagulation. Because of this, many people who have high blood pressure tablets, in that tablet, aspirin is added. This prevents heart attacks, but it is little bit toxic to the liver. This aspirin is obtained from salicylic acid using acetic anhydride as an acetylating agent. Watch here that in salicylic acid, the carboxylic acid functional group remains as it is. OH functional group changes to the acetyl derivative. After aspirin, we study more about ibuprofen. Now in ibuprofen, this structure is a chiral drug. It has a chiral carbon atom. Now this particular structure exists as two isomers. One is dextro, one is levo. More accurately, the S and R isomers configuration, S configuration is effective as a drug, but R configuration is not used as a medicine. Second, after ibuprofen, we have diclofenac sodium, which has a structure, analgene, which has another structure, it's a heterocyclic compound, paracetamol, which is popularly known as crocin, and paracetamol is slightly changed into phenacetin. You can see the OH group is replaced with OC2H5. That makes paracetamol into phenacetin a little better drug. We go for second class of compounds, that is tranquilizers. Tranquilizers are those substances which will relieve stress, anxiety, and leading to mental calmness. Of course, these drugs are not to be taken without medicinal prescription or without doctor's advice. They can reduce mental tension, disorder, that is mania, insomnia, overall feeling of discomfort. Tranquilizers are major constituent of sleeping pills. One of the best example of tranquilizer to understand is about noradrenaline. Perhaps you must have heard a secretion in our body called adrenaline. Whatever role of adrenaline, noradrenaline is a different one. Noradrenaline is a neurotransmitter. It helps an important role in mood changes. Now, if noradrenaline secretion in body is low, person suffers mental depression, suicidal tendency and such things. So what happens is that chemical which will inhibit the action of enzyme in noradrenaline degradation. Such chemicals are iproniazid and phenolazine. These chemicals will inhibit the action of the enzyme which degrades the noradrenaline. So imagine noradrenaline secretion happens in the body. There is some enzyme which is killing that noradrenaline. So what iproniazid will do? It will go and kill the enzyme which is destroying noradrenaline, so that mental depression, suicidal tendency is corrected. This is one of the most strongest tranquilizer used. There are some more also. Chlordiazepoxide. This is a chemical which is a mild tranquilizer, mild sleeping pills. Second is meprobamate. Third is Equanil. Now, if you see these structures, you can see between these two structures, there is more small difference present. Otherwise, meprobamate and Equanil have almost similar structure. Some more are used such as Valium and serotonin. Valium is sold in market with a name diazepam, and serotonin is another drug. Compare the structure of Valium with earlier page chlordiazepoxide. You can see a lot of similarity in the structure. Another class of tranquilizers is barbiturates. Barbiturates are obtained from original compound barbituric acid. In barbituric acid, the marked position is fifth position according to the IUPAC nomenclature. Now, this chemical itself in small amount can function as a drug, but in larger amount it is a poison. Now, the changes are made in these chemicals like phenobarbital and seconal, which change only at the fifth position. All these chemicals together are called barbiturates. They are severely sleep producing drugs and usually given to controlled wild animals. So in case you have seen that using a gun, that they are creating a shot at an elephant to control or such things. So at that time, barbiturates are used to control wild animals. After tranquilizers, we go for third class, that is antimicrobials. In antimicrobial, these are the drugs which are usually given to cure diseases caused by bacteria, viruses, fungus, etc. Paul Ehrlich was the first scientist to use chemical to treat certain diseases. Before that, no chemicals were used and people used to only use plant or animal products. Paul Ehrlich was studying treatment of a disease called syphilis, and he discovered a chemical called salvarsan, whose chemical name was arsephenamine. Now, this name arsephenamine, you can understand, is because of the arsenic atoms present in the center. The drug salvarsan was very effective, but in smaller amount. If the amount exceeded, it used to function like a poison. Paul Ehrlich did a lot of research and he found out that salvarsan has a similar structural feature with azo dye. Now you can see here, instead of arsenic, nitrogen is present over there. So he made, instead of salvarsan, another drug called prontosil, where arsenic was replaced by nitrogen. Rest of the molecule also was little bit modified. Prontosil was proved to be much less poisonous than salvarsan. Lot of research proved that when prontosil is consumed by human beings or any animal, it finally gave us a medicine called sulfanilamide. You can see in the structure there is a similarity. So scientists suggested, why to make such a big drug like prontosil? Let us only make sulfanilamide, and that was used finally as a medicine. It was also later on modified to form a chemical called sulfapyridine. So you can see salvarsan got modified to prontosil. Prontosil was made simplified to sulfanilamide, which was further modified to sulfapyridine. This was about general antimicrobials. One of the first type of antimicrobial used was antibiotics. These drugs were originally derived from living matter such as fungus and molds, but later on they were made in synthetic manner also. Particular antibiotic can only affect a particular type of microorganism. I hope everyone knows about penicillin synthesized by Alexander Fleming. It was initially made from natural sources. Now it is made in an artificial manner. Let us study about this penicillin. Its general structure is like this. Now in this structure there are two rings you can see, and there is one R group. Also there are three chiral centers in the molecule, three chirality centers. Depending upon what is the value of R, different penicillins are created. For example, if it is a benzyl ring C6H5CH2, then it is called penicillin G, and so on. There are 6 penicillin you need to remember for exams. Penicillin is a drug earlier used for treatment of pneumonia, bronchitis, sore throat, abscess, and different other infections. But over a period of time, penicillin started becoming little ineffective because of the mutation and other things. So now it has been almost replaced by lot other better antibiotics. We will classify antibiotics according to their action. The first type is called bactericidal antibiotics. Cidal is to kill. So these bacteria can, these antibiotics can kill the bacteria. The examples of these are penicillin, ofloxacin, and aminoglycosides. One of the example is streptomycin. Other type is bacteriostatic. They stop the growth of bacteria such as chloramphenicol, erythromycin, and tetracycline. Usually, students remember this bacteriostatic with a word CET. C. Chloramphenicol, E. Erythromycin, T. Tetracycline. We will come to second type, but before that, let me give a little information about the Gram stain test. If you are not a bio student, perhaps you may not know about this. A scientist called Hans Christian Gram, Gram is the name of a person, who discovered a way of making the bacteria visible under microscope. So using a crystal violet chemical, he made the bacteria visible. Now those bacteria who turn purple colored through microscope, you can see them, they are called gram positive. And the one which do not change the color, they remain reddish in color, they are called gram negative bacteria. Now remember this gram stain test as such, you don't have to by heart this for exam, this is only as a bridging information. Remember this for the next slide. According to their activity, first type of bacteria are called broad spectrum antibiotic. Now those antibiotics which can kill or inhibit the growth of large range of gram positive and gram negative are called broad spectrum antibiotics. In simple language, they can almost kill each and every bacteria coming in their way. Very, very strong antibiotics. You can see the examples: tetracycline, ofloxacin, chloramphenicol, ampicillin, amoxicillin, etc. These are called broad spectrum antibiotics. The other type, one of the example of ofloxacin structure is shown here. The second type is narrow spectrum. I will give you an example. Suppose a person has sore throat, then he can take a medicine called azithromycin. Now this antibiotic will work only for sore throat bacterial infection. At that time, if you have some other infection in body, azithromycin will not function over that. That is called narrow spectrum antibiotic. It will work on only gram positive or gram negative bacteria. These are called narrow spectrum. One of the most simple example of this is penicillin. Third type is called limited spectrum, that they are not over a range, but they are only for a particular type of bacteria. One of the example is shown over here, which works only on cancer cells. Some other penicillin modifications also are used as limited spectrum antibiotic. We come to now next class of medicines, antiseptics. These drugs are applied to the living tissues and they will either kill the bacteria or stop the growth of bacteria. They are called antiseptics. Remember, antiseptics do not heal the wound at all. They only stop the growth of bacteria and wound getting more infected. One of the common examples are furacin and soframycin creams, which are used over infected skin surfaces. Very famous in India is Dettol, which is a combination of two chemicals, mainly chloroxylenol and terpineol. In other substances like isopropyl alcohol, pine oil, these are all solvents which are used. Next is bithionol. This chemical is used in antiseptic soaps, which are usually used by doctors or surgeons to clean their hands. Some more antiseptics coming. 2 to 3% solution of iodine in water alcohol mixture is called tincture of iodine. Iodoform is used as antiseptic. Very dilute solution of boric acid is used for antiseptic for eyes. Savlon, you must have heard the famous trade name, is also an antiseptic. Mercurychrome, which is usually used in most of the schools. Whenever you fall down in school, they used to apply a orangish yellow colored chemical that is called mercurychrome. After antiseptics, more examples of phenyl salicylate, thymol also is an antiseptic. There are some very mild antiseptics such as very dilute solution of potassium permanganate, hydrogen peroxide, perhydrol, etc. But they are not very effective in major infections and all, very mild ones. Then we come to disinfectants. Under disinfectants, we know very well that they are used mainly in health sanitation to clean floors, instruments, or even clothes. In current COVID situation, we are all very well aware of the use of disinfectants. Phenyl is a very common disinfectant. Phenyl's composition is very complicated. It's not mentioned over here. Gaseous formaldehyde as a fumigant is used. Suspension of cresol in soap is used as a floor disinfectant. This name Lysol has been changed to Lysol in India as a trade name, but with added chemicals, of course. Parachlorobenzyl phenol is another a very good disinfectant used. There are two chemicals which have common uses. Phenol in dilute amount is an antiseptic, but in 1% amount is disinfectant. Hydrogen peroxide in 6% as antiseptic, greater than 30% is disinfectant. We come to antacids. Next type. Excessive production of hydrochloric acid, which will cause pain and irritation in stomach, is called hyperacidity. Our body, our stomach always keeps on secreting hydrochloric acid. When that becomes too much excessive, it starts coming upwards to your esophagus, and that creates what is known as hyperacidity. This treatment of hyperacidity can be done using antacids. Antacids are those chemicals which will neutralize hydrochloric acid and they will increase the pH. One of the most common famous antacid used is ENO, as we know, which is simply sodium bicarbonate. Other ones which are used are magnesium hydroxide, magnesium carbonate, magnesium trisilicate, aluminium hydroxide gel, aluminium phosphate. These are mostly dissolvable in water and they are famous Digene, Gelusil, these kind of liquids. Limitations of this use of antacids is if you use excessive bicarbonate, that is ENO, stomach becomes more alkaline, and to prevent that action, body produces more hydrochloric acid. So that is not a good thing. Digene or such thing, metal hydroxides, are effective, but they are little bit insoluble in water. So they don't increase the pH above 7. So, they also will give you a kind of a temporary relief only. So after antacids, now we go for next type of medicines, that is antihistamines. Let us understand about this chemical histamine first of all. Histamine are those chemical, which is a molecule, which is secreted in our body, and this basically causes what we call as allergy. Whenever we have certain external stimulus coming to our body, such as pollen grains, dust, the first action is we have a sneezing, coughing. That is body's reflection to the external stimulus. Now at that time, histamine is secreted. Now this histamine is basically a vasodilator. That means it contracts the smooth muscle of our bronchi, gut, and relaxes the muscle such that blood can flow. But this histamine secretion, if keeps on happening for next 2 or 3 days continuously, we say that we have cold and cough. We get a external stimulus like dust has entered in our nose. So body's first reflex is to take it out. In that process, histamine is secreted. Now that dust particle is gone, but still brain doesn't understand and it keeps on secreting histamine for next few days. That is what we call as allergy for cold or cough. So to really have a relief from cold or cough, the chemicals which we use are called antihistamine, which regular people call anti-allergic drugs. Anti-allergic drugs or antihistamine are those drugs which will have effect over histamine, the binding site of receptor where histamine is going to affect. Let us understand what are they. These antihistamine, usually these medicines are used in the treatment of hay fever, conjunctivitis, sneezing, nasal congestion or discharge, itching of eyes, nose infection, throat infection, and even sometimes motion sickness. That in you are moving in a car for a longer drive, people get an effect of vomiting. There also antihistamines are used. Few antihistamines which we study in our syllabus are brompheniramine, which is a very common medicine used in most of our cough syrups, such as ZX and all these chemicals. Then terfenadine and diphenyl hydramine, which you perhaps have heard under a trade name Benadryl. So these are the most common ones used in basic cough syrups. The problem is, whenever you take an antihistamine and it affects that part of the brain which releases histamine, exactly next to that part, we have a point of our sleep induction. So that's why when you take these medicines, we feel little bit sleepy. So most of the cough syrups when you take, you feel little bit drowsy or sleepy because it affects that part of our brain which even induces sleep. More examples such as chlorpheniramine, promethazine. Antihistamines were later on tried for the treatment of hyperacidity also. But the antihistamine which works for cough and cold are not going to work for hyperacidity because the action is totally different. So let us study which antihistamines can be used for the treatment of hyperacidity. First one is cimetidine, second one is Zentac, which is called ranitidine. These are the most common ones used in India or overall worldwide for treatment of hyperacidity. Remember a very important statement. Antihistamines used as anti-allergic are totally different than the ones used for hyperacidity because the receptors in the body are of course different. The last type of drug we study is called anti-fertility drugs. These are the ones which used for check pregnancy in women and overall used in birth control pills or oral contraceptives. These chemicals usually contain a mixture of estrogen, progesterone derivatives, and they are more stronger than natural hormones in our body. Progesterone suppresses ovulation, and there are of course synthetic chemicals also used. The one which is more common, which is kept in your syllabus, is norethindrone and ethinyl estradiol. These are used usually in the birth control pills. Let us study the structures of these chemicals. Now, the structures are really complicated, but if you see, the difference is only at 2 points. First, in norethindrone, there is a ketone group. Ethinyl estradiol, there is a phenolic group. Also, second difference is cyclohexene is a ring, and there it's a benzene ring. Otherwise, rest of the structures are exactly identical. We have a small section about traditional knowledge of medicines in India. Like we have been using a lot of chemicals at even home as home remedy we say. उसमें से सबसे पहला है turmeric. We have an antiseptic property of turmeric we know. That is because of a chemical called curcumin. Wintergreen has another analgesic property. Its chemical is methyl salicylate. Now this is existing naturally in the oil of wintergreen plant, but we know this by another name in India called iodex. Iodex basically contains only methyl salicylate. Cinnamon has an antimicrobial property for cold due to a chemical cinnamaldehyde. Clove, long ka tel, it has an antimicrobial and analgesic property due to eugenol, and we know this is used mainly in treatment of toothache. Citrus fruits contain obviously vitamin C and they have an antioxidant property. Indian gooseberry, which we call in India as amla, which has antimicrobial antioxidant property due to gallic acid. So some of these chemicals we have to remember. Don't go for structural remembering, but the source, the name of the chemical, and the action property. We have finished with the different types of medicines. We go for now how drugs work on our body. That's the last part of our topic. First, we come to drug target interactions. Large molecules, macromolecules, have a biological origin. They have various functions, such as proteins. They act when they are basically enzymes. They act as biological catalyst. Those proteins which are used in communication system, they are called receptors. So two things of proteins we can understand: enzymes and receptors. So we will consider these two actions in our topic. There are of course much more than this, but it's not for 12th standard syllabus. First we talk about catalytic action of enzymes, how enzymes function and how we utilize that in medicinal treatment. Enzymes as such have two functions. Number one, to hold the substrate molecule in a suitable position so that it can react with reagent. Enzymes have active sites. For example, you can see this is an enzyme imagined structure with an active site, and it can hold some substrate molecule over it by either ionic bonding, hydrogen bonding, van der Waals forces, or dipole-dipole interaction. So this substrate will go and attach to the active site by any of these above forces. Second function of the enzyme is to provide functional groups which can attack and carry out chemical reactions. Now, this is a background how enzymes work. We will see how we utilize this to work as a drug target interaction. So, drug enzyme interaction. What we do is called here enzyme inhibitors. For example, we have two types here called competitive inhibition and allosteric inhibition. Let us see one by one. First one, competitive inhibition. In this one, what we are going to do is something this way. This is an enzyme with an active site we saw. Two things are possible. Either a drug can go and attack or a substrate can attack. Understand? Substrate here is a bacteria or a virus, and drug has a competitive acting on it. So the process will happen so fast that drug will go and attach, but substrate will not be able to attach. This is a kind of thing. So drug will attach to the enzyme. The bacteria or the virus will remain outside the system. It will not be able to survive in the human system. This is how drugs can prevent action of a particular virus or bacteria. This action is called competitive inhibition. The second type is called allosteric inhibition. This is something really very intelligent. The enzymes are found to have an active site and also known as allosteric site. Allosteric site actually is not used for any kind of binding, but it is used for recognizing the shape. When certain drug goes and attacks on it, active site shape gets changed. Now, if the shape is getting changed, bacteria cannot recognize that enzyme. It cannot function, it cannot bind, and the disease can be saved. So, this is called allosteric site inhibition. Next is receptors. Receptors are basically protein molecules which are present embedded in the cell membrane, and they function as a communication device between incoming chemicals and cells. Now, those chemicals which carry different messages from the neurons and muscles are chemical messengers, and those will give you different kind of messages. For example, you can see here a chemical messenger is getting attached to the binding site. A chemical signal is sent inside the cell. When that chemical goes away, the signal is stopped. This is how a medicine can be used. A drug molecule can come, attach to the binding site, and send a message inside. This is another function of receptors. There are two types of drugs which we use here. Those chemical messengers which disturb the function are called antagonist. The one which are going to activate the receptors are called agonist. So there are certain chemicals which are usually used in cancer treatment, HIV treatment, they are mostly antagonist. And the other one which are used are called agonist.